Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us and joining us right now. You are watching Amka Kenya, and this is Amka Vibe Check. And like I mentioned earlier while we began this program, today we are highlighting International Youth Day. Now, today is not specifically International Youth Day. It is tomorrow on the 12th, but we would like to, of course, go ahead and have a conversation with young, youthful, leaders for that matter, who are doing very impactful things in their different stations. But before we get deeper into this particular conversation, we have a question of the day for you. And this morning we are asking, how can we better support young people driving sustainable change? How can we better support young people driving sustainable change? Remember, our WhatsApp line is on your screens, and our handles on X and Facebook are the same. And that is at K24TV. Would love to know your perspectives on the same, your ideologies, your questions. If you would like to ask our guest questions, I'll be introducing them to you shortly. You can let me know what you think. Right, so Faith Mwangi from Nairobi says, provide more funding opportunities and mentorship programs so their ideas can grow. I agree with you, Faith. Thank you so much for your perspective. And also we have Brian Otieno from Kisumu who says, give them platforms to share their innovations and connect with decision makers. I agree. Thank you so much for that, Brian. Right, so let me introduce to you our guest this morning. Our conversational topic, rather, is about the change makers, youth driving a sustainable future. And let me introduce my guest. We have Benny Hinn Walubengo. He's an orator, speech trainer, and author. Benny Hinn, yes. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Nimekusikia siku mingi.
It's a pleasure.
Lakini leo nakuona.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. And also we have with us this young lady here. She's called Andrian Ndebu. Yes. And she's the founder of Uwezo Girl Up. Andrian, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Remy, for having me.
You're welcome. You're looking lovely.
Thank you. You too.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We also have with us Wesley Jeff, National Youth Leader. Wesley.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Finally.
Yeah, finally. Thanks for having me this morning.
You're welcome. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Ready to have the conversation.
Amazing. Yeah. So let's begin. One of the aspects I'd like to point out on the theme for this International Youth Day is that it highlights the local youth actions for the SDGs and beyond. Now, which places a strong emphasis on the transformative role of young people in the localization of the SDGs, translating global sustainable development goals into local realities. Now, meaning we are highlighting both the successes and the challenges, and we want to make this as realistic as possible. Yeah. For anyone watching and they're saying, okay, SDGs and the like, those are, too many words, but how can we make it practical? So that's what I want our conversation to highlight. Yeah. So there are people out there who are watching who know all of you in your capacities, but I want you to introduce yourselves and why you're doing what you do. Right? So I'll begin with the lady, Andrian. Yeah. Tell us more about yourselves and why you do what you do.
So my name is Andrian Ndebu, and I am the founder of Uwezo Ustawi Foundation. So we first started as Uwezo Girl Up, where our aim was to advocate for SDG 4, which is education for young girls, especially in STEM. But now we're not only focusing on young girls, we're also focusing with children, for children with disabilities such as autism and Down syndrome. And it's been a bittersweet journey since 2019, and we are going strong.
Why did you get into it? Why is it? What's your passion? What's your story behind it?
So I noticed the challenges in the education sector when I was a teaching assistant, and so that drove me to advocate for quality education since the age of 19.
Okay. Yeah. She said teaching assistant. We'll go back to that. We'll circle back. Yeah. Wesley, tell us about yourself.
So for the purposes of people who may not know me, my name is Wesley Jeff. In my capacity today as a national youth leader, but also I wear different hats on a different day sometimes. I am a storyteller too. I like to tell stories. That's where I connect with people and make actual real life impact and get to hear perspectives. And also I am a lawyer by training. And I got into the youth space as a result of wanting to make a change, right? Wanting to make impact where I felt like some things were not going right. I felt like applying my mind and exercising myself in the youth space would help me have a bigger voice and a bigger audience, which it has, and speaks to why I'm here today.
Okay. Yes. Benny Hinn.
Yes.
Your name is like someone who's quite known all over the world. Yeah. Right. Tell us about yourself.
Olubengo. I'm the founder of I Speak Society. It's a youth-led non-governmental organization that focuses on training young people in public speaking, disruptive leadership, and packaging. Our whole goal is to ensure that Africa is on time and ahead of time, because we realized, just checking from statistics, in China, they have passed a law that kids must study AI at the age of 6.
Yeah.
You look at kids study robotics at the age of 10. The education system is way ahead. In Africa, at the age of 10, 11, we're studying parts of a leaf, parts of an insect. So you realize that we're not at par. So looking at these dynamics, already we are working from a place of disadvantage. So as I speak, we advocate for quality education, SDG number 4, and no poverty. Because the biggest problem in Africa is mindset, identity, and culture. Mindset in terms of how we perceive ourselves, which draws back to self-esteem. Every day, Africa loses $17 billion because of lack of confidence. If I tell you the amount of opportunities people have lost just because they couldn't be able to tell their stories articulately are so many. The percentages in terms of confidence in Africa, we are 12% in terms of continents. Europe is standing at 46%. So you find that to some degree, even when it comes to like movies, writing books and all these things, it's a challenge. Why I began doing this is I discovered I had a gift in public speaking at 13, but before I discovered that, I found it out through being written as a noisemaker consistently. So being punished in school, going to high school, there was also an identity crisis because I was very articulate in my communication.
So they found you to be rude?
Yes, I read a lot of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, so I would ask a lot of questions. So that ended up...
But did your teachers find you rude?
Yes.
Because you were very confident?
Yes, that's how I ended up now learning in 7 high schools.
Oh.
Because now I was suspended and expelled in different schools. I couldn't just fit in to the system. So by the time now I'm meeting a mentor, this one I'm in Form 2 third term. I've already done 6 schools. So I begin to sit on a mentorship in through different people and organizations, PLO Lumumba being one of them. So he was able now to sharpen me in terms of study, in terms of research, and understanding who I am. And now when the gift was appreciated, that's when I began now to thrive in the gift, becoming best male debater several times in high school. So immediately I cleared high school, I knew what I wanted. So I released a book at 19. This is my first book. And after releasing that book, now I began taking it further to high schools, conversations. And just to cut the story short, right now I run an academy for public speaking. We have 2 campuses in Westlands, and we have another one in Kiambu Road. We are spread across 5 countries. I've been able to train more than 500 orators who are certified. Been able to raise more than 70 young company owners below the age of 22. Been able to raise more than 30 authors who are below the age of 25. And we have clubs in high schools where we just train public speaking. I've been able to train leaders, cabinet secretaries in this country, members of parliament, and even outside the country, commanding also global influence, more than 500,000 followers on social media.
Right.
And I'm 23.
Wow. Bless. Now, that's a very important aspect that I would like to highlight here, because when you're young and you're doing things that are very impactful, that quote unquote change the world or the world that you're in, sometimes you don't realize the kind of impact or change that you're having.
Yes.
But we're in a season that has called us to understand and see that young people are definitely making changes, from articulating and reading bills up to the extent of losing their lives. So we cannot go back to a mindset where we say, okay, you have to wait till you're 45. The change is happening as, we go and we can see it. Yeah. So, and Andrea, in your own, niche for that matter, what is the thing that you found out about having this organization and making the kind of impact in the lives of these young women, beyond the fact that you've been taught to maybe not realize the kind of impact you're making is actually going anywhere or somewhere for that matter?
So your question exactly is what
Like, how do you realize it? Like, there's a confidence that definitely you get or you know from the thing that you're doing. But where you're standing, like I said earlier, you may realize or think that there's nothing you're doing, but in actual sense you are. So how did you come to that realization?
So for me, it's about, people come and tell you if you're doing a good thing, people will acknowledge you. And at times it takes time for people to acknowledge you, but you still stand in the belief that you are going to see change in the long term. Because when it comes to advocating for education, when you grant young people the opportunity to study, of course, you get to see the impact later on. It's like what you're currently experiencing. We're experiencing the fruits of free primary education and affordable high school education. So for me, it's looking at it from a longer perspective other than short term. And I think that's what a lot of young people are looking at life like, because we want a future that works for us in all perspectives and ways, and that's why we are at the forefront of leading the change that we want to see.
So as a teaching assistant, what are the gaps that you saw that gave you that conviction?
So first, I need to tell you that all my life I studied in private schools. So for me, it was good quality books. Teachers are always on time. So when I became a teaching assistant, I got to see that, one, the number of teachers who are there versus the number of students, it doesn't match. Like, I feel like the teachers in the public sector or in primary schools might be a bit overworked because the students are a lot. And then, so this means that the number of books that need to be marked, and also you get that these students don't have access to, which come as storybooks, which are important to build a child's grammar. So you get a primary school kid at the age of 13 is not able to articulate themselves appropriately, and such kind of things, which ideally is taking us a step back when it comes to achieving quality education in this country.
Got you. All right. Wesley, your perspective on this thing?
So, looking at it from my political eyes, I got into politics as a result, as I've said, to fill a gap, because this was a conviction within me. But as I was sharing off air, it's more of the negative things you see in the society that drive you to want to make a change. For example, my initial conviction of joining politics, I remember I got angry first. It was anger that made me join politics. And you can see it is anger that has made the young people now become more politically conscious since 2024. And my anger within that space has led me to see a lot of things, and which has drove me to a place where you have to apply not only your mind, but the convictions that have brought you to politics. For example, I have served in the capacity as a national youth leader of a political party, a national party, for a long time. And at the advent of the young people becoming conscious, I remember I was part of people who are also speaking out against what was wrong with this country on different aspects. And one of the things that I felt was a setback is that I was not getting as much support within the party that I aligned with. So my convictions are telling me this is wrong. Their convictions are saying they're still with government. So it led me to a point where I had to choose my principle or alignment with the political party. And the reason why this is relevant is because the choice that was expected was for me to keep silent. You keep quiet as is expected and comply. But we're in a season, as you've said, we cannot go back to a point of just compliance and silence. So I had to quit. And when I quit, I remember a lot of people were asking, where are you going next? Who bought you out? Because they are not persuaded that as young people,
you can actually
have a moral or a principled conviction that if this does not align and we are fundamentally unaligned, I can leave. They were convinced that the only way that I can leave is if I am bought out by somebody else. So they are always, the people are trying to look at where are you going. And this is something that in the youth space, and I think Walubengo will tell you, because I have known Walubengo for quite a while through his interactions, right? At the beginning of when he started speaking or when he started his public social media, putting himself out there, right? A lot of people are like, what does this young guy know? He's 18, 20. And I remember he addressed that in a video at some point, right? And this is the constant problem you face as a young person, that your perceived youth is termed as incompetence, as opposed to inexperience.
Yes.
You know, experience is lived through performative actions, right?
Yeah.
So now, at 23, nobody can doubt his competence because he has lived experience. So the difference is only in the time and not in competence. And those are the small gaps, and we'll get into it more as we have this conversation, that I have seen as a youth, a person who is young in politics, that people don't accommodate your difference or the change you want to bring so quickly. So what is termed as dissent sometimes is a different opinion, and that is termed as disrespectful. And when you're quiet and silent, that is termed as loyalty. You're not allowed to have a different perspective.
One of the key things that is quite important is the mindset perspective, because you will find that most people will diagnose a confidence factor as a nuisance. Like you said, you're a noisemaker, you know. 7 schools, that is diabolical, you know, because we are used to, also it's our culture, you know, just be cool, endo kaya hapo usikilize mwalimu akiongea. And then also an ideology-based kind of system where you can be having a banter with a teacher and share your perspective, and it doesn't have to per se be wrong or just writing the right answer. It says a lot about the way we articulate things, right? So how did you get over the threshold after not the 7 schools, mentor, or Form 2? Was it Form 2?
Form 2 third term.
Yes.
Tell
us.
Now, I agree with what they're sharing is very key, and they're pointing out very, key things that affect Kenya and Africa. And I must even commend you and this program, because the conversation you're having is not like a soft conversation. Come and motivate guys. What does your day look like in the morning? We're discussing very heavy things. I need us to know that Africa has a culture of low self-esteem. So that low self-esteem is so deep because it's so deep that when you confront anyone who is ahead of you, because of that inferiority complex, there's a way in which it triggers a certain reaction. And if a lady is beautiful, let's say like light in complexion, you have to be extremely intelligent, because there's already a culture that any lady who's light in complexion is not smart.
Not competent.
If you're young, you have to like step up. If you're maybe probably, so there's a tribal aspect, there's a background aspect. There's a book I've written called Sprout, where I've talked about 5 things you can never choose in life: parents, background, tribe, physical appearance, and nationality. Now, if you go out there and you're a Kenyan, again, you have to step up if you go in another country. So, like for me, the aspect of age, I can tell you till today, most of the events we've done, I've done one of the biggest, I've gathered 6,000 young people, and there was no sponsor. We did 3,000. And it was so hard to convince even, let's say, the corporates to give us CSR by virtue of age. They would just ask us, how old are you? Then you say you're 18. You're gathering 3,000 people. Are you sure they will come? And at this time, I've invited speakers like Dr. Wale, PLO Lumumba, Kanzedena, people have a very high profile. And they're like, are you sure even these people will come? So the day of the event, 2000...
How do you know them?
Yes?
Or how do you know them?
Yes, or even how do you know these people? So you like have to show proof of concept. So like I had to first take pictures with all these people and ensure that they're on my Instagram, on my personal profile. Then on the day of the event, 2,700 guys turn up by 10 a.m. So now corporates began calling when the event is going on. Can we show up? So one of the things I discovered, to beat culture, you must be able first to study it and understand how these people reason. So one of the things, I couldn't show up in a TV show in a hoodie 4 years ago, or even 3 years ago. I needed to be in suits, double-breast suits, to look a certain age. I first had to look old and now come back to my younger self. So there's a part of my life that I've had to throw away. I've deferred from school I've deferred from school for 2 years. I've not been in school. Basically building a profile. For me now to be accepted in some of these spaces, I had to write now a book at 19. That one I was advised by my mentor that you cannot be accepted in high schools as a keynote speaker when you're young. So you have to write a book, something that they think an old person can do. You need to have a car. I would go and speak in a company, corporate. I've spoken so well. When we are done, the HR escorts me and asks me, where have you parked the car? They want to see what I'm driving. So sometimes I had to even get a Mercedes from some of my friends for some of these people to give me meetings. There's a price that was paid heavily. We could do events, get into debt after it, because sometimes you have to maneuver. So now these are three perspectives. One, to the generation ahead, already there's a culture set. A powerful story said about 4 generations, a girl who's 6 years old asked her mother, who's 26, Mom, why do we break the tail of a fish? The mother said she doesn't know. So the mother said, I'll ask my mother. Her mother was in her 40s. They went to ask the mother said, I don't know. I'll ask my mother. The mother was in her 60s. When they went to the mother who was in her 60s, she said, I don't know, let's ask the oldest woman in the village. They went to a woman who was 88 and asked her, why do we break the tail of a fish? And she said, we used to cook with pots. There were no sufurias. But can you imagine that 4 generations ahead were still breaking the tail of a fish? That's the power of culture. In culture, you don't ask questions. So culture tells you life begins at 40. So from the time you are 16 all the way to around 30,
you've been chilling.
It's just heartbreaks. You sleep late. It's just there's a certain pattern that has been set.
Yeah.
Now, anyone who goes against culture, like if someone comes in this show at the age of 10 and they say I'm a millionaire, people get angry. I remember even on TikTok, sometimes people would get angry when I say I'm 23. Right now, the youngest CEO I am mentoring is 7. I have another one who's 10. He's a website developer. He's employed one other person. So you have a school called the School of Greatness, where you pick kids who are dynamic.
Yeah.
Take them for a boot camp for 5 days, back to back. These kids are 10, 12. Right now, I have a kid who's 10 who has 300,000 followers on TikTok. Mm. Now, such a child, you want to tell me if they go into the normal 844 system or even the CBC, they may not be able to fit in, because the teacher who is teaching you is your fan.
Capacity.
So now we have to introduce another conversation of the education system.
Right.
Like, is the education system prepared for what's coming in the future? Yeah. So now we are challenging that status quo even in terms of super curriculum. So what I tell the young people is that you can't wait to be invited in the table. You really have to build your capacity to have the table, so that when you come in the table, you're coming with your own table.
And I like that. Before you even continue,
yes.
One of the things that we were even discussing off air, like right before we got on the show, is understanding the past to merge it with the present, with the kind of future that you want, because it's so particular. There's some young people who are of the thought that I am here, so I'm going to do things my way. But do you believe, Andrian, that it is important for you to understand what was there for you to make the changes that you want? That by you understanding, it is not going to be pulling you back or you conforming. It is basically just you disrupting. Do you believe in that?
Yeah, okay. For me, I believe it takes the energy of the young people, the wisdom of the old to actually make a difference.
So hold on to that. We'll be taking a short break. We'll be back with this conversation. Do stay with us.
Kwa taarifa tendeti na za kuaminika na matukio moja kwa moja kadri yanavyochipuka, jiunge nasi kwenye mchipuko wa K24 kila siku ya wiki saa 5 hadi saa 7. Jina langu ni Busara na Aman.
Mchipuko, weekdays 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. K24. It's what's on.
on the Gen Z Manifesto. Kwanza itakuwa ni International Youth Day.
Na theme ya UN this time ni youth and peace building from participation to power. Sawa, mna participate kwa peaceful protests, mna call out bad governance, but do we truly have the skills and what it takes to take up those leadership roles and use that power for good?
Na ndo tunauliza, hiyo moto mlikuwa nayo tangu June last year, ndio mko nayo mpaka leo? Hiyo yote ni Tuesday on the Gen Z Manifesto from 7:30 to 9 p.m.
Only on K24 and Kameme TV, na kama kawaida, form ni kuongea, ikutoke.
Alafu majamaa, msee wenu wa ground atakuwa live from County 043 Homa Bay.